Hi, welcome to our video. We are excited to talk to you today about system and organization controls reports. My name is Jared James. I am a leader here at Moss Adams in our SOC practice. I have been doing SOC and internal controls around IT for about 10 years now, and I will turn it over to Bosco.
Thank you, Jared. My name is Bosco Ewan. I'm a managing director in our SOC practice. I have 15 years of SOC experience, 12 of which were at a Big Four. So I'll turn it back over to Jared.
Great. Thanks, Bosco. And before we get started here, I have to read our disclaimer that the material appearing in this presentation is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as advice of any kind, including without limitation, legal, accounting, or investment advice. This information is not intended to create, and receipt does not constitute a legal relationship, including but not limited to an accountant-client relationship. Although this information may have been prepared by professionals, it should not be used as a substitute for professional services. If legal, accounting, investment, or other professional advice is required, the services of a professional should be sought. All right, so to kick us off here, we want to start by going over the basics of what is a SOC report. As you saw from our first slide here, a SOC report stands for a System and Organization Controls Report. And this contains an independent and actionable opinion of a service auditor on the company's design, implementation, or operating effectiveness of a company's internal controls and safeguards. A question that many times gets asked is, why does my company need a SOC report? In today's business environment, we see that more and more companies are outsourcing particular services. It's important for those organizations to provide assurance to their customers that they are controlling the risks and operating a sound control environment. Service organizations receive requests for SOC reports to provide assurance over some or all of the following: financial and performance history, security and availability safeguards, reliable processing integrity, confidential and private records, regulatory and operational compliance, compliance with service level agreements, and finally, regular due diligence and monitoring. Now, as we see many of these service organizations growing in the market, we see that really it's being driven by companies that are offering software as a service or infrastructure as a service, platform as a service. All of these various cloud providers are really driving the need for SOC as more and more organizations recognize the risk of outsourcing operations or providing data or sensitive information to third parties. Has driven the need for SOC and reporting over internal controls. So that leads perfectly into why, what has really driven SOC examinations. Many of the common things that we've seen that drive SOC reports include clients and due diligence. Many clients are probably used to getting large security questionnaires that ask about security and other architectures of the system that provide for secure data transactions. So a SOC report can be a substitute for completing those questionnaires and providing a level of reporting that allows your customers to understand your control environment. SOC reports could also be used as a competitive measure. If there are your competitors in the market that have a SOC report that provide assurance over security or other safeguards around processing integrity or other, this could be a barrier to driving up more business for your organization. It could be a simple compliance requirement. Healthcare in particular many times has compliance requirements that a SOC or other type of third-party attestation be completed on a regular basis. Sometimes SOC reports could be used as a way of developing internal controls. Large organizations that need to know how controls are operating within their organization could use a SOC report to understand and get a clear picture on internal controls at their organization. They're also many times used for monitoring. Customers and users of service organizations use SOC reports to monitor performance of controls, to monitor the risks associated with outsourcing either that service and or providing them data or sensitive information. Increasing external audit requests. SOC reports really help a service organization that handles financial data or processing of financial transactions to provide assurance that those financial transactions are being processed completely and accurately, and could be required by an external auditor as they are auditing the financial statements of a customer. And then finally, regulatory changes could be another driver of SOC examinations. One note that we wanted to add in here is that as a company starts to undergo the SOC process, it's important to engage in that process very early on. It can take anywhere from 3 to 12 months in order to complete your first SOC examination. So it's important to understand those requirements very early on and start to plan ahead so that your organization is ready when the time comes to issue that SOC report.
Thank you so much, Jared. Really appreciate it. You may have heard the difference between a SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3. We really want to share more information about what the different types of SOC reports are and what is the difference between all of them. So we'll start with the SOC 1. It's really assessing the internal controls over financial reporting. So typically your financial statement auditor will want some assurance over those specific controls and those specific systems. And so it could cover some transactions that are getting processed along with the supporting IT general controls. And so we'll lay down all the control objectives that is going to vary depending on the type of service that you provide. Again, this is going to be a restricted report only to the users of the report and any auditors because of some of the sensitive information that's going to be on there. For the SOC 2, this is going to be covering internal controls over compliance or operations. It does not necessarily need to be financially reporting controls, and this could cover infrastructure, software, people, procedures, and data. And this really ties to 5 trust service categories: security, which is one that is mandatory across all SOC 2s, and the next 4 that are optional depending on your company needs: availability, process integrity, confidentiality, and privacy. Again, this is restricted to the users and the auditors. There is a SOC 3, which is a smaller scale SOC 2 used for marketing purposes and is unrestricted. It extracts some of that sensitive data, and so some companies are able to post it on their website and say that we're SOC certified, using it as a way to distinguish themselves from their competitors for them to win bigger and better clients. You may have heard also the difference between Type 1 and Type 2. For Type 1, this applies to both SOC 1s and SOC 2s and only covers the design of the controls, does not test the operating effectiveness of the controls, nor posts the result of that testing. Again, this is a point of time. The Type 2 covers a period of time, typically 9 months or the 12 months, depending on the financial statement report or depending on the needs of the customers. Again, this Type 2 covers both the SOC 1 and the SOC 2. And in addition to covering the design, it also tests the operating effectiveness of the controls and lists the results on the report as well. So you may ask, who issues a SOC report? Well, this is based off the AICPA, and it could only be issued by a licensed CPA. You want to be able to have, when selecting an auditor, one from a top-tier accounting firm that has the reputation that if people, users, and auditors are trying to rely on this SOC report, can know that it is done well, has quality, and tested thoroughly to rely on your internal controls. You want a firm that has deep technical expertise, over 10 years or 20 years of expertise, and really the industry best practices to really not only help your company be compliant, but really know and give comfort to your customers that the internal controls are not only designed effectively, but operating effectively as well. So with that said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Jared or myself. We're happy to help. Thank you again.